Ken Beck, my sidekick. That's the guy right over there that shoots and edits the videos. That's retired Brigadier General Odie Slocum. We'll get to you in a minute, General, sir. Sir? What's Brigadier? One
star.
Well, it's the best we could do.
Wow. All right. Better than I'll ever do.
Yeah, that's for sure. So we went to City Hall yesterday to get you your due. What did we learn yesterday, Ken? We learned
City's broke.
City's broke.
And they want to tax everybody coming in from out of town.
Every suburbanite, you want to go to a Red Wings game, they're taxing you. Want the beer, they're taxing you. How are they going to do that?
Maybe they'll check your license when you buy a ticket.
License. So you go to the hot dog stand, they check your license, and yet nobody's got to show ID to vote. I don't know. But what we went for was the Northland Mall being ground up and tossed into the holes where children in the city play. And this is what we came back with. The old saying goes, you can't beat City Hall. That might be true. But you can sure as hell shame them. Over there. Because we got to get our money.
Charlie LeDuff, followed by Mr. Cunningham.
Good morning, I'm Charlie LeDuff from the Michigan Enjoyer. It's a beautiful day. For years, the Detroit demolition program has been a cesspool of graft and incompetence. More than $500 million has been spent. What did Detroiters get for it? They got done dirt. In 2017, the U.S. Treasury looked at 100 random demolition contracts. Not one had receipts for the dirt. Nevertheless, the city paid handsomely. In 2021, the Land Bank told the Treasury they had no dirt receipts at all. Again, the city paid handsomely. Former Inspector General Ellen Ha estimates that as many as 10,000 demo sites may be contaminated with toxic dirt. Well, now we have the Northland Mall. An executive for the city testified last week that the contaminated dirt from the mall couldn't have been used in Detroit because the city did not approve it. This doesn't mean anything. The allegations, again, are cheating by the contractors and a blind eye by the city. And now, sidewalks. A contract today worth nearly $3 million. For what? Contractors who did those demolitions were supposed to complete the jobs or not get paid until they did, but they did get paid handsomely. Did those contractors who didn't finish the sidewalk have bonds, which is called insurance, which is required by law? When asked, another city executive said, indeed, the new contractor who stands to receive the $3 million sidewalk contract today does have a bond. But that's not the question. The question is, did the old contractors have bonds? The public has been promised that information, but so far it has been an information brownout. For years, we've heard the buzzword environmental racism. Meanwhile, here in Detroit, it's been perpetrated right under our noses. Quite probably, there is an ocean of toxic earth underneath the city of Detroit. Children play in those lots. They deserve better. Thank you for your service.
2 hours later.
Well, they passed it anyway. Like I said, you can't fight City Hall, but at least now you know how it works.
Live from downtown Detroit, it's the No Bullshit News Hour with my main man, Charlie LeDuff and Karen Dumas.
It's just a breaking news. No more bullshit. No more bullshit.
I'm Grace Karros, and I'm third generation of American Coney Island. People say Detroit's a comeback city. I say, where you been? We've been here for over 100 years. My family's been here on the same corner, serving our famous proprietary American Coney Island hot dog. So like always, we're keeping things fresh, updated, and new. We'd love to have you come downtown and visit us, but if you can't, you can always go to AmericanConeyIsland.com, order a Coney kit, get it delivered fresh right to your door.
Well, you know, when it rains, the power goes out. And when the power goes out, the internet goes out. When the internet goes out, I call my friend Matt and Bernie at XG Service Group. Look at Bernie here on his hands and knees, giving it everything he's got. Look at that man crack. So busy, he forgot to wear a belt. There's Matt right there getting the board together. That's 734-245-4100 if you need Matt and Bernie to come take care of your voice over internet, your security cameras, off-campus access control, Wi-Fi, and cameras for homes and business. They'll design it for you. You got restaurants, they do drive-through systems, railroad cameras for public safety, total wireless camera systems for your home and business. Yeah, that's right. Call XG Services at 734-245-4100. I ought to make it be known that there is a big-ass criminal investigation going on with that dirt. I'm just going to leave it at that because we're not going to do dirt. We're going to go on the other side of the world. And joining us is retired Brigadier General Odie Slocum, former fighter pilot. He trained fighter pilots, and he was commander at the Selfridge Air Force Base. Good to see you, sir.
Good to see you.
And thanks for the service, really.
I appreciate the opportunity.
You are a highly regarded man.
Thank you.
In this world. And so let's just, I'm talking to Red downstairs, comedian Detroit Red. He didn't even know there is a ceasefire. So let's start.
I'm not sure they know that in the Middle East either sometimes.
Yeah, that's the fact. So is it over? Is nobody shooting now?
Oh, I don't know. I've heard different accounts. You know, everything you see on the news, you take with a grain of salt. We can only hope that we've actually come to a place of at least a small bit of peace over there after what's been going on.
There's a big, okay, so the B-2, I mean, they fly almost Mach, almost speed of sound, go all the way around the world, refuel in the air, never land. When those bay doors open and they're dropping those 30,000-pound mops, what happens to the airplane? Like, you're flying, it's cool, and then the bay doors open. Does the plane warp? Does it shake?
Well, anytime you open,
because you
like,
train your ass off.
Yeah.
But never that part.
Now, I'm not a B-2 pilot, but
Right.
just, aerodynamics as a whole, I mean, you're going to be opening, it's going to affect the aerodynamics just a little bit. I think the biggest effect is actually going to be the center of gravity of the airplane, because all of a sudden you're taking 30,000 pounds and you're taking it off. So there's going to be some sort of a shift, some sort of a pitching moment or something that's going to be a result of that. And most of the time the pilots are going to know what to expect and everything.
Is that like when they train in a simulator? Is that change in aerodynamics?
It all depends on how that simulator is programmed. Hopefully so. And in this case, of course, they had two of them loaded on each of those bombers. So that's 60,000 pounds. They dropped one and then the other. That's a lot of weight, and it all depends on how it's distributed within the airframe itself.
All right, I mean, right? Like you're flying a plane, you're coming in for a landing. The landing gear goes down in the plane.
Yeah, you can feel that. I
Yeah,
mean, that's very, I mean, I can't imagine being a pilot. All right, time to drop the ordnance. And then.
Well, one of the things with the low observable planes, we would call the fifth generation. So that's your B-2, your F-35, F-22. They have weapons bays to keep that low observable, what everybody would call stealth. Well, when you open that bay, all of a sudden you're not so stealthy anymore. So the whole idea would be open, drop or shoot, and close it right back up again, so that you're keeping your stealth characteristics as intact as possible.
Wait, I didn't even think of that. So stealth is basically, it absorbs like radar, right? The skin of the plane, something to this
Or
effect.
it's the angles that the plane is designed so it reflects in a way. So it's a combination of all these different types of technologies. But yeah, the whole idea is, when you open the weapons bay, you're kind of ruining the pristine, low observable characteristics of a plane just by nature.
Oh, so you can be noticed right at the moment.
Well, and that's actually a very important difference, is low observable. You'll hear me call it LO. Anything can be found. Anything can be tracked. It's not invisible. It's just really hard to find. And if you have a missile, an air defense system that can go 200 miles, but it can only see you at 20 because you're so small, well, now you can be much more effective because you can go in between them and everything else. So when people say, oh, we tracked a stealth or whatever, well, maybe they weren't even trying to be stealthy at the time. But the other is it opens up opportunities and gives advantages. It doesn't make you invisible.
The other way it's visible is by Twitter, because I don't know if you saw people posted videos of, hey, B12 or what are they, B12s?
B2s.
B2s are taking off right now in Missouri.
B12's a vitamin, but yes, B2 bombers.
I'm an idiot. What
Now,
do you
when
want?
they were going, there was this whole deception thing, right? They were The stealth, they're going to Diego Garcia, or they're going to wherever.
Guam, I think, is
Guam
what
or whatever.
the story
Now,
was.
Did you see through that one?
I laughed.
Well, let me say,
when I saw that.
I knew it because I'm like this. Wait a minute. They're on FlightWare. They're being tracked on FlightWare. I'm like, they got their transponders on. I'm like, FlightWare is how I tracked Gretchen Whitmer going to visit her father in Florida. And you knew right away, like, come on, man, right? You knew something was going on. But I'm looking at these photographs, General. They seem pretty precise, these strikes.
Oh, yes.
You know what I mean? I mean, so it's funny to listen to reports, classified reports be leaked to fake CNN and whatnot. Like, it's only a couple of months. It's 6 months. Does it even matter at this point? Now that you've sort of closed the doors, collapsed at least the top roof in, even if they went in there to try to reconstitute this, and by the way, there's 3 different sites, and each of them are in a chain to make a nuclear weapon. If we see bulldozers trying to dig the dirt out and, reopen the house, I mean, we'd come back, I would think, right? Isn't this a lot about nothing?
Well, the weaponeering of this is where the real science is. We're watching a bomb drop from a B-2 that's, 30,000 pounds and goes into the dirt. What you see on the surface is such a small part because that thing's going to go down, poof, and there's going to be a little bit of stuff that comes up as a result. The real damage, of course, is way beneath the Earth's surface. How do you tell? What kind of intelligence do we have there? Who's saying what on radios and telephones and everything else? There's a lot to be studied to find out how effective this was.
Now, you were talking about these ordinances earlier. You said that the most interesting part of the bunker buster is the fuse.
I said, yes, it would the technologically advanced, because if you think about it, okay, so you have the 30,000 pound bomb that has about 5,000 pounds of explosive. The rest is just that hard casing shell that allows it to go through with that kinetic energy to even get to a point to explode. Well, you have to have a fuse that knows the optimal time to explode. And it has to know not just when you hit, it has to, how far down does it need to go? And it still needs to be intact and viable when it gets to that point. So that's a very high-tech part of the whole technology.
There's no real way to know at this point. Don't you just love, as soon as the hand ringing, like you got the MAGA No War on the right, like Marjorie Taylor Greene, and I'm out of here, and then the AOCs, and you need to be impeached, and it didn't work, and it's like, I don't know, we sort of have a ceasefire. I mean, do we? Here's what Trump said the morning after he announced on social media that we had a ceasefire.
Israel, as soon as we made the deal, they came out and they dropped a load of bombs, the likes of which I'd never seen before. The biggest load that we've seen. I'm not happy with Israel. When I say, okay, now you have 12 hours, you don't go out in the first hour and just drop everything you have on them. So I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran either. But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because the one rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land. I'm not happy about that. You know what? We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the fuck they're doing. Do you understand that?
Sir, can you interpret that military parlance for us?
Well, that is a highly technical term that he used there. That adjective, there's a lot of engineering that goes behind that.
He's got a point there, right? So if the hostility simmers and we don't want him to have a nuke, can we be 100% sure that they never would without boots on the ground? I mean, we didn't destroy all files, I'm assuming. We're being told that enriched uranium was taken out of the place. Something tells me those trucks that we have satellite images of, the drivers were actually Mossad. I got a feeling we know exactly where this stuff went. But can we guarantee a non-nuclear Iran without troops?
Guarantee? I don't think we can guarantee anything anytime. But there is a lot of technology that we can know what's going on. Certainly Israel has shown a lot of ingenuity, especially when it comes to intelligence and putting people on the ground, eyes, ears, sniffers, whatever you want to call it. And then, of course, we have very, very capable systems. So, whatever Iran's up to, I'm sure we know. Most of that knowledge and everything's going to be behind a vault door for good purposes, as we can see that, a lot of good information can be used against us. So we want to make sure we get good information, that we're using it for the right purposes.
And you need a place to enrich uranium. And these are huge places. These are huge centrifuges. That's why they had to build them in a mountain.
And a lot of electricity that goes into that.
So you could have sort of enriched uranium, right? That's good for Iran already has a bomb, right?
How the fuck do you know?
I'm just saying. Well, you need a facility, right?
The guy's reading. He's doing Twitter again. But just ask the general a question. Don't
You
be
need a facility, right? You need a facility to enrich this stuff. You can have uranium, but unless you enrich it to the point where you can put it on the tip of a missile, right?
Okay, hold on here. Let's just test Ken for a second here. Just his nuclear acumen. Where on the periodic table, say, where is
It's very heavy.
Where's the element hydrogen?
It's very light.
Where is it?
One, right? It's like 1 or 0. I don't know.
1, 2,
0,
5.
2.
That's what I thought.
It's up there. That's very light. I know uranium's very heavy.
General,
it's outside of my expertise. I can't tell you where anything is on the periodic chart.
The deception here in this mission, the ballet of it. There's an overriding feeling in my heart. That's all I'll say. Is everything was a mess in America. The border, at policing, everything. Certainly that translated to the military, that we're a mess. Does this show us, no, the military's not a mess. The military just goes about its business and keeps its mouth shut?
Our military is very, very capable. What we saw was a great plan executed well. I mean, there was the ruse that went with it. Let's take the planes off to the west. I'm sure they were making all sorts of radio calls so that everybody would watch what was going on there, at least from what I saw in the news. It sounds like what the actual strike planes did is took off, didn't use the radios. They did this all calm out, what we would call OPSEC, or operational security. So they were able to execute this with a great degree of operational security. Because there's people that watch, Whiteman in Missouri and all, they know when planes take off. So they had to do something. But these planes flew halfway around the world and everything else is part of all this. And the choreography of it is amazing when you really look at it. I believe, General Raisin Kane, a fighter pilot, by the way, our chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, I actually flew with Raisin. I would expect nothing less under his leadership. So there is a lot to be said for military leadership and what they emphasize. And, the first time you see Raisin Kane on the news is with this outstanding execution of this plan that we saw, play out in front of us.
Do you think the Biden era DEI principles also helped in this mission?
I don't know what you mean by helped.
Pronouns, stuff like that.
Diversity is our greatest strength, I've heard.
Okay.
Not the military.
Well, you all know this. I'm not going to go political on you and everything here, but it tells us that our warriors are able to focus when they need to focus. But at the same time, there are a lot of stresses on our military right now. Our Air Force, where I come from, we are the smallest, oldest, and least ready that we ever have been in our history. And especially compared to China, which is the newest, most ready they've ever been in their history. And the trend is continuing. So there's a lot that we should be looking at. The B-2, we're sitting here screaming about this wonderful technology of the B-2 bomber that flew, I believe its first flight was 36 years ago. This is not new technology we're talking about. It's a couple decades old. Obviously been updated and all, but we're designing and has flown the first B-21 Raider bomber that's supposed to be the replacement. Originally, we were going to buy like 100 B-2 bombers. We ended up buying 21, and we have exactly 19 of them, according to the things you can read online and everything now, that are still operational. Because we cut the buy back. That's just what we have this tendency to do. We're supposed to buy over 100 B-21s, this new 6th generation, very capable bomber. Let's hope that program stays intact and we deliver not just the capability, but the capacity of buying the numbers that we need to be able to make a difference around the world.
Now, it's crazy because we have a $1 trillion military budget, right? And then when we're sending artillery shells to the Ukraine, they have to be diverted to Israel when things light off there. Like, we don't even have enough of the basic stuff that you would need to fight some kind of war like that. We don't even have artillery shells. So what's going on? Are we enamored with all the bells and whistles and the latest airplane and we're not taking care of the regular business of today, I know war will change.
Well, every
rapidly.
conflict we've ever had, we've learned the same lesson over again, is that we use munitions at a rate much higher than what we ever anticipate or plan for. You can go back in conflicts and look at that. And we're seeing the same thing play out now. I mean, munitions are expensive. We could look at our Navy and these missiles that we're using to shoot down the drones and the ballistic missiles especially, and how incredibly expensive they are. And we buy them by the dozens, and we've been shooting them by the hundreds. There's articles out there right now that are talking about our depleted inventories. And this is fighting Iran. Let's start talking about, Korea, China, Russia, or any of these other types of things. Is our military, do we have the capacity to be able to execute our defense strategy? And
Do we?
Well, the argument would be no, not in terms of we haven't necessarily purchased the numbers. And you just brought out some cases. The 155 artillery shells, the NATO standard that are used all around the world. Look how much, the Ukraine, of course, they've just been using it, to kind of crunch along this trenchish type of warfare going on over there. But they've just been using them left and right and trying to scour the earth to get enough to be able to continue with what they're doing. And you're right. We had to divert some to Israel when the whole thing started with Gaza over there. So once again, this is all just open source type of information that you can read out there. But
I hope you could give us some information, like new sheriff in town that we're trying to order it and prepare. Not that we want war, but we want to at least have a defensive posture.
But there's a lead time required for all this. We could sit here all day long and say, that's great. Let's buy more, SM-3 missiles for the Navy. We could decide that Congress has to pass a budget, then it has to go into a contract, then they have to get these limited supplies from around the world to make it happen. And it's going to be years, many years before we're able to see the result of our decisions that we make today. Shipbuilding is a huge one right now.
That's a big problem, isn't it?
China can build 232 times the capacity of ships that we can in the United States. We just don't have shipyards here like we used to.
Farmed it out.
We farmed a lot of it out. We have a hard time building 2 submarines a year or a couple destroyers for our Navy.
Yeah, I see ads on TV recruiting young women to build submarines. None against young women, but we're putting ads on TV to recruit people. So.
Yeah, and Michigan actually has been a big part of that. They're trying to help train the talent to work in the shipyards to be able to help with this problem going forward. So the Navy has approached a lot of our, like Macomb Community College and some of these institutions we have around here, trying to solve the problem. But once again, when you're outgunned 232 times the capacity of what we have now,
Yeah, well, okay, so that leads into this. The Middle East, I mean, it's important. Everywhere on earth is important, but the Pacific Rim is where it's at. That's like, I don't know what percentage of the world's population, it's over 50% of the world's GDP, I believe, right? So, while we're busy over here with not enough artillery shells, we lit off about 14 bunker busters. We're not building airplanes or ships. Does the mission in Iran at least open the eyes of, say, Russia and China, like they're
in
serious
lots of
over
different
there?
ways.
As a military man, I mean, just that, as your opinion.
One, I can go on the positive side of things and say there was so much more of a message that was sent by what we were able to do with this strike recently with the B-2s and the Iran nuclear program, that they flew all the way around the world. They took off from Missouri, they landed in Missouri, and they were able to do this incredible capability that no other Air Force, no other military in the world has. That's an eye-opener. But we own 19 of those B-2 bombers. How many of them were used on this mission and all, considering the availability, having a mission capable rate, probably a 50, 60% at any given time. We pretty much used our entire available bomber strength to make this one thing happen. So, where do we stand going forward? Like I said, it's not just capability, it's our capacity and our endurance. If we lose a couple bombers, what do we do from there going forward? If we, how resilient are we in the face of an adversary?
We're talking with the retired Brigadier General Odie Slocum. Odie, where did Odie come from?
Garfield's little dog. So you think of fighter pilots, you think of Iceman and Goose. My name came from a young lady that worked on our command post one day that said I was like Garfield's little dog, always getting kicked and never complaining. And she went, "Arf!" Just like that. The call sign stuck. So
all the guys
I'm
in the
Odie.
locker room, yeah, Odie.
Yep.
And
But
now
even to this day, my wife calls me. I mean, I met her at work. That we knew each other long before we ever dated, and also around the house, around the community, everybody just knows me as Odie. No, that's not my given
you liked
name.
it, so people will underestimate the pit bull that you are.
Sure, let's roll with that.
Any really funny call signs?
Oh, there's a lot of interesting ones out there.
Anyone that stuck with you?
Oh, I'd have to think about it. There's a few that are probably not even. I wouldn't even say it on this podcast.
That's pretty bad.
But I'll just say that there's some pretty interesting ones out there, and a lot of times they're acronyms that have, double entendre type of meanings to them.
Let me get back to this one here. Okay, so like you've been in many theaters, you've trained pilots all over the world, you had a career in the military. The Democrats are now lining up saying, this is unconstitutional. You didn't bring it before Congress to vote on a war, but my dad served in Vietnam. That wasn't a declared war. Korea wasn't a declared war. Obama on his last day in office bombs Libya. That wasn't cleared. There's Iraq. There's Afghanistan.
Well, instead of all the knots, how about when was the last time we declared war?
World War II?
World War II. Wow. That was it. That was the last time we went through that constitutional process to formally declare war.
So there's the War Powers Act, but it's never even.
There's notification requirements, et cetera, but.
So this is just more stupid fucking theater in the modern world. Twitter, cable television. It's just our politicians have become just notice me, not get things done, not say, hey, that one actually worked. That could have been wrong, but.
Well, you're always, especially in today's day and age with the social media and all the way that it is, if somebody is from this party, they're always going to take a position one way, and the other party is going to take a position just the opposite. It doesn't matter what the facts are and all in this case. And that's why it's kind of tough sometimes to see through the noise of what's really going on out there. It gets awful tough to watch the news nowadays.
God, it is, right?
What was your opinion of that battle damage assessment that was leaked yesterday? That seems pretty bad. I've never seen a foreign a U.S. strike a foreign enemy, and then like the next day, a very damaging leak
coming out of the Department of Defense.
Yeah. Well, one, I would have to ask, like I said, anything in the news, is that really what happened? Would be my first question.
It was CNN, so.
But
and that rat chick that leaked the community intelligence, the intelligence community intelligence that the Hunter laptop was fake.
Same one.
Yeah,
same
it's just
person.
the same asshole.
Yeah.
But I go back to when I started in the military. My law of primacy, dealing with classified, how you had to go in and out of the facilities, how you dealt with information, how you controlled it. I used to have nightmares thinking that maybe I left a piece of paper in my pocket or something like that. Or I used to have these nightmares.
What paper be doing in his pocket?
I'd have these nightmares.
I know what he did. He put it in his pocket to go to the toilet to take pictures of it.
Well, but my point is, nowadays it seems like there's leaks of information and everything that happened. You've seen some very high profile cases in the news. I can't even fathom that. I was so paranoid about, controlling classified information, how we have somehow let go of that in some people's minds, clearly, that they would think it's okay because things are classified for a reason. It's our time, talents, and treasures. And we put people in a lot of cases on the line to be able to gather and gain this information, and then to set it out puts people and processes at risk.
I will speculate. Just
You're going to speculate?
Haven't been in the business a while and knowing how sources work and whatnot, and watch what had gone on and who's been leaking and putting out, false narratives. This came from very high levels, because I'll tell you, as a reporter, you got like a mid-level analyst, or you got a homicide detective. You're not getting that right away. And you certainly, as the reporter, would not 6 hours later run up there and go, we've got the report. It has to be near the top. It's got to be the deep state. You know what I mean? They don't like what's going on. That's just how the game works.
Yeah, I mean, if it truly was a classified leak, I hope they find out how that happened, and I hope whoever is responsible for that pays the serious price.
And I know Obama took a lot of people to trial, a lot of reporters for just this scenario.
But I'll also say you have to take the information with a grain of salt because, I mean, this strike just happened. Let's call it an initial report. You were, when you started this program. Yes, that there's going to have to be a lot of follow-on that's going to look at this. Okay, we sealed the entrances and exits. Well, then how do we know what's going on in the middle? I'll go back to the take it all with a grain of salt. Anything I see on the news, especially that's something that's been put there for a purpose, is usually for a political purpose. So I'd say smoke a lucky. Let's see what really happens in the long run with this.
Thank you. I was worried if you minded. Give me a break, man. You've been around the barracks.
I don't think that's a lucky, but all right.
What we do know is the shooting has stopped. And wisely, and wisely, in my opinion, from experience, having been in the Mideastern theater, you didn't want regime change. Like we did that in Iraq. We did that in Syria. We blew the Middle East wide open. If you know anything about Iran, and I know a little because I studied it a little in college, you try to keep fresh with what's going on in the world. About half of Iran is Persian. Okay? The other 40 to 50% are ethnic minorities like the Azerbaijanis in the north, the Kurds, Arabs, Turkmenis. There are independence movements there. And so if you were to destabilize Iran so much, it would turn into a massive civil war. There would be unintended consequences, refugees fleeing to Europe, all over the world. I think, I don't even know how to say it. Well, Trump's a lot smarter than people give him credit for. I mean, worldly smart.
Well, just studying history, like you just said.
That's not an endorsement. I'm just watching.
When there's a regime change or whatever, now you're into the world of unknown unknowns. What are you going to end up getting out of the long run? It could be worse. Whether you like it or not, at least now we're dealing with a known. All right. So we know who the actors are. We know what to expect. There's a degree of rational. I mean, look at what happened as a result of all this. Iran could have, used everything to attack all the military bases, but we got this little 6-missile short range. We're going to tell you it's coming attack against the deed in Qatar. And they're back claiming victory and everything. And I was telling somebody the other day, they have to save face. They have to be able to go to their people and say, we did this, we prevail or whatever. I mean, that's even more than our culture in the Middle East. That's huge, saving face. Mm-hmm. And that has to be part of any solution that's going on over there as part of the ceasefire. So you can see right now, Israel can say, we did this. You got Iran saying, okay, well, we were able to do this. Look, we struck Israel. We've done all this. So everybody is kind of claiming their victory at this point. And I think that is probably the key to a ceasefire sticking. Because if anybody feels like they've got thumbed at in this whole thing, it's going to go back to the default around that. These people have been shooting at each other and in a warlike state for so long, just like President Trump said in the news clip right there. That's what they know. That's their default go-to is to fight.
Let me bring in another military expert here. Major Hardon, you had a question?
I just wondered, does Israel want regime change in Iran? I mean, they started it. Do they want it?
Well, I think Israel's interest is the survival of Israel. And the practical side of it, do they want regime change? I can't answer that, but I can tell you that they are very interested in Iran not having nuclear weapons. Sure. So that had to be first and foremost of everything that they did. The other, of course, is to be a deterrent. Deterrence through strength in this particular case. Who would have thought Israel would completely control the skies over Iran as far away as it is with the technology that's available? And you look at the population, you look at the economy, and this little small country of Israel, about what, the size of New Jersey or something out here, able to do. They have accomplished what a lot of people thought was undoable in here. So
speaking of that, there had to be planning for decades, right? On just looking at Iran's missile or air defense system, right? Did anybody think that could be taken out the way Israel did? I mean, they took it out, a lot of it in October, and then they finished the job. Like, did anybody think that was possible?
You mean outside the IDF?
Yeah.
Well, the capability is there. Anything that emits, if you think about it, That means it can be detected, it can be hunted out there. So there's nothing that, they could have a very capable system, but at the same time, we're going to come up with counter equipment, counter tactics, and everything to be able to go and hunt those same things.
But Israel doesn't have like the stealth fighters, or do they? They have
the F-35.
Okay, they do have the 35. Never mind.
Yeah, they're buying 72 of them, and I think last I saw, they have 30 or 40 of them currently in the inventory.
They denuded them before we went in. I got.
But the first time they struck Iran should have been an eye-opener. I mean, they flew the entire way there and back. They not only took out their targets, but they took out a lot of those air defenses and everything else.
And then there was like another symbolic attack, right? Where they kind of warned them. Iran did.
Yep.
Retaliation.
But just to have that capability of, we came all this distance, we got in there, and you weren't even able to shoot at us.
That's great.
And it came back. That alone, you think about like the programs like the F-35 and everything that are out there. Wow, what a testament to the technology, the weapon system, the training, and all that go into all that. That type of a capability. The people that should have had their eyes open there were China and Russia.
Yeah, I just remember going in Iraq. I have not been to Iran. I've never been to Iran. I would like to go to Iran, but I just remember being in with the Marines, realizing these were the Flintstones. This military capability, the bluster, wasn't there. It was all in the proxies, just to create pockets of mayhem. And now I'm worried because of the wide open border, because in Dearborn, right, we've knowingly let people on the terror list into the country, much less sleeper cells. I worry about this now.
Well, when you look at what happened, so when they went head to head, Iran clearly was no match, either to Israel, primarily in all this. And then, of course, by the time they'd been beaten up a little bit, no match for the United States and our capabilities. So what options do they have? The term we would use is they're going to have to go asymmetric and not meet us head to head. So through proxies, through unusual means, through innovative ways to project power. They're not going to be able to do it in the traditional way like we would think.
Well, that's a nice, clean way of saying there's a good possibility.
I mean, look what's going on with the Houthis and all there. I mean, that is still an ongoing issue. What's going to happen to the supply chain with Yemen, the sea line of communication through the Red Sea, and all of those things that have been a constraint on the world economy and everything up till this point. All these are in play now.
Yeah,
what's going to happen? What's Iran going to be able to do going forward? Are we going to allow them to continue to supply this country of Yemen down here?
And what are they willing to do? And what can we give them to bring them into the community of nations? Like, it is better to make business than make war.
Well, and we can go back to what you started with early on this. So you said, you studied Iran, and I'm guessing you were probably about the same age I am when you're looking at it, and they were friendly.
Yes.
At the time, the Shah of Iran, that was one of our biggest allies. That's why they have F-4, F-14
But he was
fighter jets.
He was brutal, though. You can't go back to a regime like that.
Didn't say it was right or wrong. I will just say he was an ally of the United States, and we were dumping military equipment in there like nobody's business.
Disappearing people. What the Argentinian junta was better than hyperinflation. We've got to be. It's business. It's got to be business. And we're not going to go over there and impart liberalism on them. Like wide open world trade. It killed us here in Detroit. There's got to be a new thinking about, the human family. Like, you have your culture, I have mine. I can't let corporations take over the world.
At the end of the day, doesn't Iran just want to sell their oil? Like, imagine Iran if they were allowed to sell their oil on the open market just like everybody else if they behaved. Wouldn't that be like you know what I mean?
Well, and you're talking the difference between the people, the economy, and the politics. With all of that. Of course, the people are going to want to be prosperous. They're going to want to do things that are going to take care of them, take care of their families, just like every human being has those values.
That's all the discontent in this country. I'm not able to.
Yeah. But I think one of our biggest shortcomings really is we have a tendency, United States, to look at problems around the world through our eyes.
Right. That's what
We don't understand the Middle East culture. We don't understand Persians. What is it that drives them? What motivates them? What are their values, and how are they different than ours? If we took the time, I think, and looked from that perspective, it would be a lot easier to come up with that long-term solution, just like what you were talking about. What is it that would get everybody to get along on the same sheet of music so that we can get back in, it's a win-win for everybody with an open economy where we're able to trade and get along and everything else.
Okay, so we're coming up on that. We try to keep it under an hour, General. You know what I mean? This is the
I
hour.
thought we had a couple more hours to
Well,
go here.
we could do it, but this is the the hour, less than an hour, where people can watch it because nobody watches news. We just want to give you the news.
Okay.
This was the world. We gave you some local. We gave you the world view. Thank you for that. And we're going to give you what's bullshit in the news right after this. You know, your teeth can't heal, but the stock market can. That's just a fact. The market roller coaster is making you grind your teeth. Call or text my friend Luke Nowacki at 248-663-4748. We're all hanging on to this ride like Gayle King and Katy Perry. Just hang on to your flower. Some people are saying that the earth will be better when this is all over. Luke Nowacki, Pinnacle Wealth Strategies. Are you an aging senior wondering where you'll end up? Are you a son or a daughter wishing your mom or dad lived closer to home? Are you a caregiver with good heart and good character, but you feel stuck in a dead-end job? Are you a social entrepreneur looking for a safe real estate investment within a fast-growing market? Well, consider contacting Archangel Senior Management. Archangel offers a solution and a vision to compete with big corporate senior living communities. Call Archangel at 989-614-0316. All right. Before we get to what's bullshit in the news, the General wants to bring you some good words.
Well, one, I just wanted to talk if people are not aware of the 127th Wing, which is Selfridge Air National Guard Base, about 20 miles north of here, right against the lakes, is one of the oldest continual operating military airfields. But it is the home of the 127th Wing, the Michigan Air National Guard. They currently fly the A-10 aircraft and the KC-135 tankers. All this military capability we're talking about. This is tip of the spear. This is part of our national defense, and these are our hometown heroes. So if you haven't had an opportunity to ever get to know Selfridge, what goes on there, it's absolutely amazing. We have fantastic Michiganders doing our nation's business every day, and I can't sing their praises enough.
Can you get a tour there?
If you contact public affairs there at the base, that can be arranged.
Okay, that's online. Just look up Selfridge National. I just call it
Selfridge Air National Guard Base. And their public affairs would be, what I would Google if you wanted to look to find their phone number. Sorry, I don't have it off the top of my head here.
Probably starts with a 586, though.
Might be 800. Next time you're on the show, do your research.
Sorry about that. It's beautiful out there, by the way. Selfridge, it's a beautiful piece of. They got a nice little golf course there too.
God, they should save those officers' quarters.
Oh, we could talk all that. That was actually supposed to be a traumatic brain injury transition center and all that. They ended up, their business model folded. So I'm not sure what the long-term plan is going to be, but there's some amazing facilities and all.
Not enough brain injury, I guess.
I don't think we have a shortage of that, unfortunately.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah, they're running state government.
Well, I did not say that.
I said that. I said you can quote me on that. Real quick before we get to what's bullshit in the news. Is it possible? I've been told by sources it's possible. It's not a done deal. It's not even in the drawing board. Could Selfridge be used to house migrants going on their way home?
Could it be used? Anything is possible. There's not really housing out there of any kind.
Tents, they did it in New York City.
They did. You have to understand, Selfridge is very unusual. It is a federal facility, but it's managed through the state of Michigan, through the Michigan National Guard, Department of Military and Veterans Affairs at the state level. So the 127th Wing, essentially through the tag, the Adjutant General up to the governor would be responsible for whatever goes on out there.
Have
so
you
that
heard
would be a
any
decision.
Discussion about this?
Personally, no. I have not heard anything of the sort.
Now you've heard something.
Okay.
Because it's amazing because you could put them in the old officers' quarters, and then when it's time to go home, their taxi's right there.
Yeah, I don't think those old officers' quarters are quite livable right now. They haven't been maintained for a long time.
Wow.
Yeah, I thought they were beautiful. Okay.
They look good from the outside. Yeah.
Hit me, Mark.
The No BS Newshour presents What's Bullshit in the News?
Just so well done, Mark. A couple of geniuses, Ken and Mark. Hope you're feeling good, Karen. I hope you're watching. All right. Speaking of migrants, let's put this up. Michigan, I can't even read it. Michigan State Senator Mallory McMorrow on violent illegals, saying it's our job to stand up and fight for our constituents. And that's rich, because Manhattan Mallory voted against helping or keeping COVID-19 infected people out of the Michigan nursing homes. Bipartisan, by far, it passed. Whitmer vetoed it, and thousands of constituents died. That's good to remember when you want to be the United States Senator. That's what you did. That's fact. There it is. There's your vote. I can't believe it. You want to know how devastating? I'm going to tell you right now. I'm going to gamble here. Whitmer's dead in the water. If you really think you want to be president, and anybody carrying a vote like this, if you want to be senator, it's not going to work, because Andrew Cuomo, former governor of New York, with all the money in the world and all the endorsements in the world, lost last night to a Democratic socialist in New York City for the Democratic nomination to be mayor. And in large part, nobody forgave him for what he did in those nursing homes. So when you talk about constituents, you better be talking about us, not people that can't vote. Sir?
Okay.
All right. What next? What's bullshit in the news? Hit me, Mark.
The No BS Newshour presents What's Bullshit in the News?
Here we go. Let's get it ready. We got video out of Flint. Another city council meeting ends up with a woman, disabled woman, getting her ass thrown into the wall by the police. What's going on in Flint? Roll that. Ooh, head right into the wall. Ooh. Oh, Sheldon Neely, it's not good. Jedediah Brown and company are really shining a light now.
Was this a murderer they were arresting?
No, it was a citizen who's upset with the governance of Flint.
Oh, I thought it was a violent criminal by the way they were taking her down.
Okay, that's amazing. Now, we're going to talk to her, but she just recently posted this. They took her away. Something happened at the jail, and now she's in the hospital. Roll it.
The police whooped my ass. They tore ligaments and tendons
allegedly
in my body. But this is not the end of me. This is not the end of me telling my story. And this is not the end of my journey. In the words of my great-grandma, it's more than one way to skin a cat. And I got 4 cats I need to skin alive. And that's all I'm going to say on that.
And that's all she's going to say on that. Now,
what's going on in Flint, dude?
Here, I'll tell you. We'll put a topper on this. You go to Flint City Hall, the drinking fountains still don't work. Just saying, that's exclusive. All right, next. AOC getting into Twitter spat with Trump. Because we struck the Fordo nuclear site in Iran, he now has to be impeached because he didn't ask her permission first. She tweeted, what's it say, Mark?
I'm a Bronx girl. You should know that we eat Queens boys for breakfast. Respectfully.
Was that her picture?
Yeah, it looks like she's been eating more than Queens boys, if you know what I'm saying. A lot of stress. A lot of stress to be the social media queen. Now, from the Bronx, but you ain't from the Bronx. All right, man. You know, you lived there when you were 5. All right. But you moved. Here's a picture of it. You moved. What's the name of this town? Yorktown?
Yorktown Heights.
Yorktown Heights. I covered.
Sounds fancy.
All of metropolitan New York. I don't even know where Yorktown Heights is. I had to look up Yorktown Heights. You want to know where Yorktown Heights is?
Yes.
It's north of Connecticut.
What?
It's nowhere near the Bronx. Nowhere near the Bronx. I said it before. I'll say it again. Cortez. That is a European name. European. Okay? You grew up in a rich area. Look, you're a white girl. That's what you are. Stop it. Stop it. Now, Sir General, you'll appreciate this. My father, non-veteran. I was born in Portsmouth, Virginia, in the Naval Hospital.
You're a brat.
Does that make me, sir, a war hero?
No, it makes you a military brat, just like me, right? Child of a military veteran.
That's right.
Okay.
Guys on active duty overseas, I'm born. It don't make me a non-vet. This is so stupid. Stop. Shut the fuck up. And as an old school former Democrat, never registered as a Democrat, but I'm from here, Gary. Oh yeah, I'm from Gary. You know what I mean? We moved back here when I was like 8, 9. Does that make me
Smell?
That made me
a steel worker?
Or part Michael Jackson, maybe. Didn't they?
Does that make me part of the Jackson 5?
Yeah, I think so.
No.
You need to work on your hair.
You've been eating your hair?
God took care of that.
So, all right. Now, finally, sir, speaking of dropping bombs, somebody dropped a double deuce in the aisle number 4 at the shoe store at 8 Mile and Van Dyke. Got out of a Cadillac. We got the video footage here.
Yeah,
got out of a Cadillac, walked into the shoe store, pulled down his pants, dropped a bomb, and split.
Came straight in the store, didn't even talk to anybody, went straight to the shoe aisle. He just pulled down his pants, pooped, didn't even wipe, and walked straight out and got in the car and left.
I think that's ridiculous. I think that's the craziest thing I ever heard in my life. I mean, I don't know what he was thinking or what he was going through, because they have a bathroom in there.
It seems like that's what they came there just to do, because they didn't talk to anyone, didn't grab nothing, made a beeline straight for the shoe department, used the bathroom and just left. When I seen it, I just thought, no way. That's why I reviewed the camera so quick, because I was thinking maybe it's a kid and an accident happened.
But it was no kid.
The guy that actually used the bathroom in there, he was probably 50s, and the guy that he was in there with had to be about my age, mid-30s. The guy that he was walking in with and left, he had a nice car. It looked like a burgundy Cadillac. The guy had a nice outfit on. They were nice, clean cut. I don't know what was going on. I was trying to find him before he left, just to ask why. But they were gone so quick.
Yeah, but wow.
Was that the lead story on Fox 2 yesterday?
I don't know. Who watches Fox 2? You would know.
Yeah, I know.
Was it?
I don't know. I literally didn't see that story before, which is kind of unusual for me, but that kind of sums up the state of local news right now. The important stories we talked about today. Zero airtime on any of the 4, 7, CBS, whatever. They won't talk about it. They'll talk about this. This will be the lead story. A guy takes a dump in a shoe store. It is unusual. It's funny, but it's...
Well, Ken was former executive.
I was
producer of Let It Rip, 10 o'clock news on Fox, CBS. So it's your fault. You created this.
This is exactly the type of story when I worked there that would be the leads. Drop everything. This is crazy.
No pun intended.
Including your drop trowel.
This is why I had to leave that business, because it's so ridiculous. Yeah, it's funny, but it has a place. I'm sure this was the lead.
And again, no expertise. No, let's really look at what's happened here. Now we have retired Brigadier General Odie Slocum. Sir, I know your career was in the Air Force, but what do you make of this man dropping anchor in the middle of the shoe store?
I will have to decline. I am not a gastroenterologist and cannot explain the anatomical motivation of this particular individual.
Now, to wrap it up, our perpetrator is still on the bum.
But did they get a license plate number or any moles or any identifying marks?
This story's peanuts.
License plate ended with a 2.
Sir, before we go, you've written a book. Can you tell us?
Yes, I did. It was a wonderful opportunity I had in my 35 years in the military. And I got into some very interesting opportunities, suicide prevention, resiliency, safety programs and all. And it was important to me to tell that story. And it took me 4 years to write a book, but I was able to do that. And I titled it what I called my leadership principles, which is Violent Positivity. So if you have any questions about it, it's about a leadership book on caring for people, violentpositivity.com. And it's on Amazon and everything, so it's available there. But it's a story that I think needed telling.
Beautiful. And thank you for your service. Thank you for being here. It was really a pleasure.
It was quite the experience.
See you next week.